Static in the wires, night on the line, screens flicker red with another dim night. Names erased before they're born, truth buried deep under uniforms. Sirens hum like a prayer gone wrong. Mothers count, rest till the dawn. You shut the doors, you cut the feed, but numbers don't lie and numbers don't bleed. Like children don't scream the same way. 40 small shadows on the street line rain. You call them figures, we call them names. 14,000 locked in the dark, hands zip tied, souls torn apart. Your blackout cities, you choke the sound, but the silence keeps shouting underground. You waited to death, you censor the cry. Rewrite the night so the killer survived. But every phone that slipped your grip recorded the truth you couldn't clip. You can't bury the stream in the spreadsheet. You can't muzzle the truth with fear. You can't wash the blood from the concrete, no matter how clean it appears. You count the bodies like broken machines. We count the dreams you destroyed. You call it order, we call it a crime. And the numbers don't plead but we do. Turn the internet off, turn the lights out. Tell the world nothing's happening now. But the earth remembers every step, every crack in the riot shield, every trigger pulled in panic, every child you said wasn't real. Your lies expire faster than bullets. Your power trembles when watched. History keeps better records than any file you've lost. You can't You can't bury the scream in a spreadsheet. You can't muzzle the truth with fear. You can't wash the blood from the concrete, no matter how clean it appears. You count the bodies like broken machines. We count the dreams you destroyed. They call it order, we call it a crime. And the numbers don't bleed, but we do.
endless state. Children counted as the cost. Footnotes lost, wars are fought. 63 erased as lies. In a war they call divine, you praise the hand that pulls the gun. Sang hymns to battles won. Turned killers into saints. Engraved to medals without names. Praise the Buddha upon the neck. Call it order, call it right. Raise your fist to hardened men who learn to kill by night. Praise the brute, deny the blood. Sing louder than the cries. You don't amend the people, you defend the lies. You didn't lose control that night. You showed us how you rule with borrowed faith and loaded guns, and boys taught to be cruel. You say they're defending homes, but whose home paid the price? You say they stood for peace, but peace was not their vice. Praise the food upon the neck. Call it order, call it right. Raise a whisper louder than a crowd, because it crossed forbidden ground. When the warning comes from kin, you can't blame enemies within. You built your throne on unity, on silence past as faith, but the family learned the cost and cracked your mask in pain. When the house starts speaking truth, you call it treason, call it lies, but cracks don't care for uniforms, they only spread with time. Oh, you rule by blood, by name, by fear, by legacy and claim. Now even mirrors in your home refuse to say the same. You said this is a family matter, as if the country isn't bleeding, as if the streets aren't screaming, as if silence is obedience. Every regime falls twice, once in the streets, once in the light. When loyalty breaks quietly, power starts to hum, and that sound you hear at night is control coming undone. When the house starts speaking truth, your walls begin to shake. You can jail the ones outside, but not the doubt you make. Your crown was built on borrowed faith, on names too long, we're told. No names left, just numbers fade. Fed to steel where dreams decay. Courtroom dead, no pulse remains. Verdict sealed with endless chains. They call it order, call it right. Becomes a sound of losing fight. Judges read with hollow sight. Sentencing their own tonight. Sentence spoken in so deep. No real trial, just shadows creep. To judge not the guilty ones, but punish those who dare to run. 400 marks on stone so clear to teach the rest to live in fear. Justice hides, it never flew. Just learn to wear a darker hue. Lives like bread they share. No jury, just a hollow stare. Years like rations, thin and spare. Enough to break but not repair. You weaponize the days we count. Turn time into a prison out. A slow death stretched in endless rows. Because the fast one stains their shows. They call it order, call it right. Becomes a sound of losing fight. Judges read with hollow sight. Sentencing their own tonight. Sentence bulking ink so deep. No real trial, just shadows creep. You judge not the guilty ones, but punish those who dare to run. 400 marks on stone so clear to teach the rest to live in fear. Justice hides, it never flew. Just learn to wear a darker hue. You cities keep the world in line, but cages rust with passing time. Fear may age but never dies. Debts grow tall beneath those skies. Time records what power denies. Revolutions don't subside. Pressure builds where eyes can't see. Underground it breathes so free. Sentence broke, files out of sight. Streets seem cold and dead of night, but prisons glow with stolen light. Bodies locked, but years take flight. Every sentence sharp and bright carves the fear you've held so Another mic, another flag, another statement carefully dragged. Diplomatic words like gauze wrapped around a broken jaw. They finally said it out loud, but the streets already knew. They called it intimidation, called it fear by design. Said executions don't show strength, they show a regime in decline. You flinched at every headline, every foreign night. Because once the world names the crime, the silence learns to die. Summoned ambassadors, stage replies. Blame the culture, blame the West. But every excuse sounded thin against the bodies you left. It's stay unseen. But sovereignty isn't a sheep when the crime is routine. The world says your name and it doesn't whisper it. It doesn't blink, it doesn't pray. It just documents. You build your power on shadows, on nobody seeing ahead. Now the lights stay on too long, and everyone understands. You fear recognition more than sanctions, more than strikes of loss, because once the truth is common knowledge, you can't rewrite the cost. Every statement, every vote, every camera turns your way, turns internal matter into evidence on display. You taught the people how to chant. Now the world repeats the sound, and the echo doesn't stop at any border you've drawn. The world says your name and it writes it down in courtrooms, halls, and memories. You can't burn to the ground. You wanted fear to travel one way from you to street. Now pressure moves in reverse, and it doesn't retreat. No sirens, no reply, just your name underlined. History clears its throat and waits for what comes next. Cameras face the wall, voices fade and fall, pens snap in the hall. Truth is held in thrall. Questions scream the threat. Words need clearance yet. 58 souls at dawn, press cards torn and gone. Report the weather fine, but never the storm sign. Raided rooms erased, truth must be encased. Headlines and handcuffs tied, truth kneels out of sight. You don't silence the lie, you blind the watching eye. Ink spills on the floor, cameras see no more. If your rules stood so right, why fear the written lie? They call it keeping peace, but peace needs no police. You don't case the pen if the news is your friend. Fake news brings no fright. Witnesses bring the light. Lives thrive in the mess when truth faces to ash. Calm needs no gag tie. Jails need no false light. Stories walk alone through the seeds you've sown. Headlines and handcuffs tied, truth kneels out of sight. overwritten light. Phones turned to weapons drawn. Tweets mark the guilty pawn. Sentences weigh like stone. For words are not your own. Voices cage will rise through cracks in your lies. The press shows the flaw, and laws can't ignore. Headlines in handcuffs tight. Headlines in handcuffs tight. Pages torn from sight the reporter's hand, but not the truth that stands. Truth needs no consent. It won't bow or repent. Time recalls each lie, and the light won't locked room with no light. Breath counts, feels so wrong. The law steps outside while the night stays long. No bruises to be seen, but they know where they've been. They call it discipline, they call it control, but control needs no hands when it breaks the soul. She was the language, spoke it fluently, Chairs sway back, the door swings wide. Your name hangs heavy tonight. No anthem plays, no flags remain. Just a space where you stood in shame. You spoke for women with a clenched fist. Now the room remembers what you did. You claimed to see, claimed the voice, claimed you offered women choice. But choice don't come with batons. Our lost edge still control the bones. They counted votes, they read the floor and saw the blood you called reform. You said this is cultural. They said this is criminal. You mistook silence for consent, mistook fear for reverence. When the door closed in your face, the world corrected the sentence. You're expelled from the room where dignity speaks. You can't represent the silence. With hands on their cheeks, you built your power on bodies, on discipline and threat. Now the seat is empty and the silence says no. You laughed at symbolic gestures, called them empty, called them weak. But symbols cut through honor when they name what you can't delete. Legitimacy is fragile, it cracks when truth arrives. No decree can force respect when it's built on stolen lives. You wanted recognition without responsibility, but the world drew a line and refused complicity. You're expelled from the room. You can shout from the hall. Won't free but no pain. Not after the fall. You said women were protected. We saw cages instead. Now the room stands with the ones who tried hardest to bend. Like stem seeds we said doesn't carry it. You lost our right to speak the name. The door closed slow, but it meant it. Scars lift high into the sky. Names shine bright where dreams don't die. They drew the line we crossed with pride. The sun shifts when worlds collide. gas loud, just silence counting proud. Every vote a measured breath, every paper weighs like death. They didn't shout, they didn't fight, they didn't need to scream, they write. They read the files, watch the scene, and made a choice so clean. You called it interference then, you called it pressure gains, but evidence stood firm again when they spoke your name. You said it was internal pain, like walls could stop the dead, but crimes don't stay contained once the truth is read. You were voted into the record, line by line, crime by crime. No chance, no barricades, just facts that damn the time. You can scream bias at the sky, you can stall, you can deny, but once the vote is written down, it doesn't ask you why. They put it in minutes tight, they archived every scream, 'cause history loves the light when power loves to cling. You wanted noise, you wanted blame, something you could tame. They gave you process, pure and plain, and a permanent You were voted into the record, filed where power can erase. You don't haunt the headlines now, you haunt the case. You taught us what the law forgets when it ignores consent. Now the world knows you by dance, not by what you meant. Hands, the lights stay on, the vote moves when you're gone. You lost control of how you're known, and that's the part that kept us on. No sirens, no smoke, just numbers froze where they flow. Accounts locked, doors closed, pressure grows without a pulse. This ain't war, but memory with teeth. You learn to survive protests by waiting them out, but waiting won't work on systems that count, not shout. They skip the streets, hit the bloodstream, need oil travel, access names, now deaths they can't delete. You claim this hurts the people like you weren't causing pain. Sanctions don't fire bullets, they just freeze the money chain. Sanctions don't blink, they don't shout, they don't scare, they just close the exits you pretended weren't there. You could posture, you can threaten, stage your defiance shows, but pressure don't need permission, it just grows. Not spreadsheets and time can jail a protester. Counteract the line. Every frozen asset whispers. Every band redraws the map. Power leaks the fastest when built on gaps. Sanctions don't blink, they don't get tired or afraid. They don't chance your fall, they just make you pay. You wanted consequences distant, easy to deny. Now they live in every hall you walk by. They told me stay neutral. They told me just create. But silence is a choice you make, and fear is not your fate. The camera lifts its warning gaze. Courtrooms hide in walls of gray. You don't censor images. You send to brighter days. They name a price, they drew the line. Careers crash like fading light. A woman without their permission is a flame they can confine. No permission to sing. No license to breathe. You don't ban the film, you ban what it means. Yeah, you fear the image more than the gun. 'Cause pictures remember what power leaves undone. You want our obedience, clean and tame and small. But art survives the cutting room, and truth outgrows the wall. The scripts they burn in red tape files still ignite the heart's desire. Every frame negotiates with embers climbing higher. They threaten screens with rusty chains, but light still finds its way. A story without their permission is the dawn of a new day. No permission to sing. No approval to cry. You don't silence the artists, you teach them why. Every band writes a chorus, every thread adds a line. You want it quiet forever, you just taught us how to rhyme. counting slow. You turned deaf to policy, made urgency a crime to see. You say this restores the land, but order don't grow from a hanging hand. Every list you circulate teaches how to calculate, not the days, not the years, just the price of all our fears. Dates now. Fathers trace the prison walls. Siblings speak in futures bright, 'cause presents crush too tight. You think terror flows down from your throne to the ground, but it rises through the seats of those you left to bleed. To see through your charade, just confirm what they all know. The system picks who has to go. The list grows long but won't conclude. Can't kill ideas you can't subdue. You tied your life to depths you've sown. with letters, votes, and open hands, and permanent shames. You fear this more than sanctions, more than loss or blame. Because when the world remembers, you don't get to rename every adopted prisoner, every voice that stayed, turned temporary outrage into something that remained. The world stood with you when you were told you were alone. Every echo answered back. You were abandoned, just postponed. You win by waiting people out. When memory doesn't decay, solidarity doesn't fade. It organizes and stays. The world stood with you, not as savior, not as kings, but as witnesses who refuse to unsee suffering. Solidarity doesn't fade. It organizes and stays. Oh. File seal